Hello lovely people, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all well. Today we are doing our first nervous guide of the year. The crowd goes wild. Today we are back with another nervous guide. I've said the same thing, pretty much the same, twice. The show we're going to talk about is The Importance of Being Earnest, currently playing at the National Theatre. So if you want to know what to expect in relation to content and any sensory things and my experience in the theatre, etc., stick around and we'll get into it in 2 whole seconds. So here we go. Let's first introduce what a nervous guide is and what I do on this channel. So on this channel, for each show that I see, I try and do 2 separate videos. First one being this is the nervous guide. This is when we talk about pretty much what I've already explained, content and sensory warnings, any things that I experienced in the theatre itself, where my seat is, what my view was like, anything that I've found surrounding that. Then secondly, we do a review. Now the reason I put it in inverted commas is that I am not in any way professional. No, I do it for 1, the love of theatre, and 2, because 9 times out of 10, including this show, I go and see shows on my own, and that means I quite like to have a chat afterwards about what I have experienced and how I think the show was. And the way I do that is by doing one of these videos. So without further ado, let's get into the nervous guide to this show. Firstly, it is at the National Theatre on South Bank. This is actually taking place in the Littleton Theatre. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you've never been to the National Theatre, which was me this time last year, there is 2 theatre spaces to my knowledge in the National Theatre. You have the Littleton space, which is downstairs, and then you have the Olivier Theatre, which is up high. I don't know the logistics. I'd love to know. Maybe one day I will find out more. The Littleton space is actually the smaller of the spaces, and it was my first time being in there. And actually I didn't purchase this ticket, it was a Christmas present, which I was 100% grateful for, because I really wanted to see this run. And although it is getting recorded for NT Live, I am not around when it is in cinemas. I am on a trip somewhere, and so I finally got to see it. I'm very happy about that. Whilst we're talking about the theatre, let's talk about my seat. My seat was S4 in the stalls. It's on the end of a row in S, obviously, which I think was 4 rows back from the back. The way the theatre is set out, for the most part the whole of the stalls is on a rake, so wherever you sit yourself, it is a pretty decent view. I did have tall person directly to the left of me, and that meant that occasionally I had to lean myself into the stairs to be able to see what was happening around the gentleman's head, which is something you always are at risk at when you go and see a show. I did make myself a slight booster seat out my coat in the second half and it worked quite well. But generally the seat was comfy. It wasn't the widest, so the seats were the ones that fold up, so there was easy leg room when you had to let people pass, etc. However, there were also not armrests like certain other theatres that you can like rest your arm on about yay high. They were like little risen bits in between each chair, and that meant the way that the seats are designed, they kind of digged into my hips a little bit. I am on the large size, I'm okay with that. and occasionally it does mean that I'm slightly uncomfortable when it comes to seats. It wasn't a terrible discomfort because they were quite soft feeling, but it is something to be aware of if you are of the bigger nature and you are thinking of buying a ticket to sit in that theatre. Before we get into sensory and content warnings, the other thing to mention is this show is 2 hours and 45 minutes, including a 20-minute interval, which is, in the long run of shows, relatively long. It didn't feel long in any way. It was a fun watch. The first half is the longer of the half. The second half I feel like went in a flash. But it is something to be aware of if you're one of those people that finds it difficult to sit still for a long period of time. So that is something to be aware of. In relation to content and sensory warnings, on the National Theatre website there is a suitability clause, if you will. Don't know what I just clicked, we're okay. It says, please note this production contains strong language, suggestive content, smoke and haze. That has pretty much wiped out everything that I have discussed, but let's get into my notes. So I put that there is haze used in the first opening moment in Act 1. Act 1 basically starts with most of the cast on the stage. There is it is started by one of the lead characters who is at a piano, and from there the rest of the cast kind of join in. There is movement, there is a little bit of haze, not too much, but it is something to be aware of if you are, I'm assuming, towards the front. There is also a little bit of haze towards the end, and especially in the bows, but again it's not the kind of haze that progresses forward into the audience. It is just stage haze, if you will. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is that in Act 2, towards the end, there is a scene where the character of Jack / John / another name leaves the stage. There is then a lot of noises of him climbing stairs, moving things around, essentially upstairs in the house that Act 2 ends in. There is a lot of noise and commotion and thumping around, and then when that noise stops, that same character is above the proscenium arch, which is a name and a thing that I now know of. But basically the way this show is staged, there is like an arch under the official arch. It's hard to explain. So the character of Jack / John / someone else appears at the top of that, where he sticks his head and top of his body out. He shouts something down to the stage level, and then he drops a bag down. Nothing majorly loud, but if you're not expecting him to appear up there and you're quite worried because you're in the front few rows of the stalls, there's nothing to worry about. He's completely safe up there. That is basically all I have on my list, and as I've said, on the National Theatre website themselves, they literally have what I have said. So it's not one for the major warnings, it's just a few things you might need to be aware of if you're seeing a show and you're not a fan of haze or such like. But from my standing, it was quite nice to watch and not have to fear anything happening. There was no massively loud noises, there was no evidence of any gunshots. I mean, I'm all down for that. And I am pretty much done with this video. I feel like I've been slowly going red whilst I've been talking. Basically, I've been out and about in the cold. As you can see, I'm not currently at home, but I had a few minutes to sit and do this, so I thought I'd take advantage of that. but because it's been cold where I've been and now I've come into the warm, I'm slowly melting my face off. So if I have suddenly gone red throughout this video, I hope you don't mind. But that is pretty much that. I'm going to leave this video here. Like I said, the next video that is on this channel will be the review video. I'm very excited to do my first review of 2025. So look forward to that. It will be, like I said, my next video. Hopefully shall be on a Sunday, but we'll see, because I've had time to myself for the last 2 weeks and now it's back into work, and that's going to mean the craziness is going to begin again. So look for it. If you are one of those people who likes watching my videos, then feel free to click the bell notification thing, which I believe is still a thing on YouTube. I don't know. But yes, I'm going to stop yammering on it to you. I will leave you be. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And all that's left to say is the usual, and that is this. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. See you later.